What's up, guys? In today's video, we are talking about vehicle extrication. I pulled this video specifically because it has some really good shots of some things I want to point out. If you're unfamiliar with vehicle extrication or if you're interested in being a firefighter, I promise you at some point in your career, you will go on an MVA where you need to extricate a patient. Now, I pulled this video from 90210 Fire Buff. Head over to his channel and check him out. He has some really good fire footage of vehicle accidents, of house fires, of responses from Southern California. So check him out, give him a like, give him a subscribe. Let's get into the video. So first thing I want to point out, you see that the command vehicle, or maybe that was a police car, I forget, drove up, and now you see the fire engines in this ladder pulling up. Nobody's getting out of the way. Nobody's really stopping. People are just turning in front of this truck. Whenever you go on an MVA, you need to have your head on a swivel. You need to be very careful, especially if the accident happened on a main road. It's all too common. You will see headlines in the newspaper or online of a police officer or a firefighter that was injured or killed because somebody was texting and driving, somebody was not paying attention as they were driving up on an accident scene, and someone gets hit. Please be careful on these. Please pay attention. Please park your apparatus in a way that blocks off the scene so that you can keep yourself safe. All right, so next thing, you can see here, this looks like it's a single car MVA. There might have been another car that hit this that's out of the frame. I can't see right now. But what we have right here, there's only really one car. Whenever you show up on a scene like this, it's very similar to how you would approach a fire scene. Is you're going to want to do a 360 and you're going to want to look for any hazards, find out if there's any victims, things like that. So in this particular scene, I believe there's only one victim, just the driver. So when you show up on here, you're going to want to look. Is there somebody in the passenger seat? Is there somebody that maybe slid down and is pinned underneath the dash? That happens frequently. You're going to want to look for victims. What's their status? Are they deceased? Are they screaming in pain? Are they unconscious? Try and find those things out. The other thing you're going to want to look for is you're going to want to look for any dangers. You're going to want to look for any fluids leaking from the car, any flames. If they hit a power pole, are there any wires down? You're really going to want to watch out for something like that. You're going to want to get an entire picture, a big idea of what's going on the scene before you get in there and start trying to cut a car up and put people at risk. So you see this firefighter here on the left. What he's trying to do right now is he is trying to cut the hinges. One of the easiest ways to take off a door, and obviously it depends on how damaged the car is just to cut the hinges and pop the latch, and the door should come right off. Now, when we're talking about extrication tools, powered extrication tools, you're usually talking about two types of tools, or at least fit into two categories. Ones that cut and ones that tear apart or spread. Everybody's heard of the jaws of life. Those are the ones that kind of spread things apart. The jaws of life is not an actual tool. That's just a brand name, by the way, if you did not know that. But this is what this guy here on the left is doing. The other thing I want to point out, you see this hose connected to his extrication tool. If you're a firefighter and you have the chance to go over to battery operated tools, we did at our department. This is totally unrelated to the extrication, but they are awesome. We used to have the hydraulic ones like this where you'd have to have an entire setup and all the hoses and they'd get tangled and it'd just be a mess. The battery operated ones have been great for us. We love them and they're a lot easier to use. And you see that firefighter in there. These other firefighters on the passenger side of the vehicle are checking on the victim, making sure he's okay. Anytime you have a victim in a car, one thing that's a good idea that you might want to consider doing is taking a sheet or some sort of covering, maybe if you have an extra turnout coat or something like that, and covering up the victim. Whenever you're extricating somebody, there's usually going to be plastic or debris or glass flying around. You don't want a victim, especially if they're already in a bad place, getting sprayed with glass shards or anything like that. Just try and protect them as much as you can. If they're panicking and freaking out, it's a good idea to get in there and make sure that they're staying calm. The last thing that I want to mention about this particular scene is you see those firefighters in there, and I'm sure they already did this. Anytime you go on an MVA and the airbags have not activated, you're going to want to be real careful about sticking your head in that car. If you're not paying attention and you have your head by an airbag and it goes off randomly, if a power line gets cut or something, it can really hurt you. So please be careful. Please cut the power properly. That's too technical of a thing to go into in this video about what lines to look for and dealing with hybrid cars and the power that goes for that. But please be careful on these scenes, especially if the airbags have not deployed in an accident. Be careful in case they do if you're the one that's in there. So at this point, they got the victim out of the car, but I did want to mention one thing. Television and movies, and I harp on this all the time on this channel, do not show the realities of extricating a patient. Anytime you see it on TV or movies, it looks like it's no big deal. Just cut a couple hinges and slide them right out. It's nice and easy. That is not always the case. It can be very difficult to get a patient out of a car, especially if the dash has rolled up on them, or depending on how bad and twisted up the car is, it can be very hard to get them out without hurting them more or hurting yourself. This is the reality of it. The other thing is in EMT and paramedic school, if you have not gone through EMT and paramedic school yet, you will probably have an entire day based on vehicle extrication. In those situations, they're very prescribed and they're very precise about, okay, we go hold C-spine and then we do this, and then the person already knows that they're coming out. So it makes it a lot easier than it actually is in real life. I said earlier that it's easy to pop a door off, just cut some hinges and pop a latch. It's not always that easy. You can see these guys were working. I'm sure these guys are very experienced and know what they're doing. It took them a little bit longer than you would think to just do something like that. It can be difficult to get patients out of there, so just be aware of that too. All right, so last thing, and I think it's worth mentioning. One, I appreciate that the fact that 90210 Firebuff actually blurred this guy's face out for his own privacy. I appreciate that. There's way too many people trying to do shock and awe content on YouTube, so I appreciate the fact that he did that. The next thing that I wanted to point out, and this is the final point for this video, is you see on the left-hand side of the screen this big cell phone and somebody's recording. It's worth reminding everybody in public safety, but this channel is obviously geared towards firefighters, that you need to be aware on scenes like this. They will draw crowds. People are interested in tragedy. There's something that's curious about it. Anytime you see an accident on the side of the road, people slow down because they want to see. You will be filmed. People will be watching you. So it's just worth reminding everybody, try your hardest to be as professional as possible, and keep in mind that there will be a recording out there somewhere of you doing your job. So as always, I hope you found this useful and helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.